Josiah Willis here with Proestate Planning. I wanted to say thank you for picking up your ultimate probate process guide because I know this guide will be instrumental in helping you understand the process for probate and what the steps are while you work to settle your family's estate. But before you go, I want to tell you about a very special offer that could be a game changer in helping you settle the estate fast. It's called the Probate Mastery Bundle. But first, to understand that Proestate Planning and the Probate Mastery Bundle is the best opportunity for you to settle the estate fast, it's important that you understand my story and why I got into this business of helping other families in the same situation that you find yourself in. My story begins with my grandpa. He was a selfless man who had an entrepreneurialism in his bones. So my grandpa and grandma started a garbage and recycling company named Waste Control in 1945 to provide for their 6 children. He worked tirelessly to earn a living for his family and wanted something to pass on to his heirs. He started with 1 garbage truck, 100 customers, and a work ethic that seriously could not be beat. He grew his company into a large operation and then passed it down to my dad and uncle, who took over from him upon his retirement. What he didn't know was how big of an impact he would have on his kids and grandkids and generations to follow. So my grandpa was my dad's hero because he was not just a successful businessman, but he was a man of integrity who cared much more about serving his community in order to have an impact on people's lives. He started a family legacy that he passed on through high ideals, a great work ethic, and financial freedom to my family. He was my dad's hero, and my dad has been my hero, watching him follow in my grandpa's footsteps. I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur like my father and grandfather before me in order to be able to pass on my wealth, life lessons, and success to my kids like my grandfather did to my dad and my dad has passed on to me. However, I was afraid I wouldn't live up to my grandfather's and father's success because ultimately I wanted to make them proud of me based on how I decided to live my life and what kind of business I wanted to start. But then reality hit me like a ton of bricks. My grandfather passed away when I was only 10 years old in 2002, so I was unable to start a successful career while he was alive, but I knew I wanted to follow in his footsteps somehow and make him and my dad proud. So choosing the same vocation as my dad, I decided to obtain a finance degree from the University of Washington in order to be able to start a company as an entrepreneur, just like my dad and grandfather. Upon graduation, though, there was one problem. I didn't have an idea for what kind of company I wanted to start, so I decided to join a business consulting company in Bellevue as a financial analyst with hopes of becoming a consultant in order to get exposed to many different business industries and people in order to come up with my startup idea. I was excited to finally come up with my idea in order to achieve my dream of being an entrepreneur like my grandfather and father. But reality, again, hit me like a ton of bricks. It was clear after a year and a half that consulting wouldn't be the path to identifying an industry for starting a company because the management didn't have any plans for me to become a billable consultant in order for me to get that knowledge of which kind of industry I liked to start a business in. So I was bored with my job because I didn't feel like I was making any progress towards my goal of being an entrepreneur and making my family proud. So I got my real estate license and went into real estate in order to serve clients and learn real estate investing in order to grow wealth and help others grow wealth in a much more entrepreneurial environment. So that brings us to the next step in my journey. So then, my grandma on my dad's side and my grandpa on my mom's side passed away in the same year back in 2017. Our family had to deal with the loss of not only one loved one, but 2. It was a tough year, losing 2 grandparents in the same year. But it was especially sad knowing I had no more grandparents on my dad's side. That really hurt because knowing that they weren't going to be able to watch me get married, meet my their great-grandkids and my children. And what was especially difficult, though, was watching my dad juggling his duties as a personal representative for his mom and dad's estate while also running the family business. He obviously had never been through probate before, since your parents' death and estate settlement only happens once. As executor, he had immense responsibilities. He was responsible for selling the house he grew up in, selling a recreational property, splitting up the financial assets, getting his siblings to agree on funeral arrangements, asset distribution, timelines, and much, much more while living his already busy schedule from being an entrepreneur running the family business. Needless to say, he was swamped. Even with a lawyer to help him in this process, he still made a mistake that delayed the entire process almost double what was required of him if he wouldn't have made this mistake, which I'll share later. He didn't file probate in the state of Hawaii where my grandma and grandpa owned a timeshare in. So this is the mistake he made. This doubled the length of the process, causing delays and undue hardship, and affected his peace of mind ultimately. That is when it dawned on me. I had a finance background, a real estate license, vendor connections, and thousands of investors that I could utilize in order to help families settle their estates, keep them from making mistakes, and help them retain their own financial futures in order to build their family's legacies. My combination of experience in finance, real estate, and working at a consulting firm all combined together were the tools I could use in order to start my very own estate settlement and investment planning company in order to become an entrepreneur, but also help other families carry on their parents' wealth and success to the next generations. So the plan became to find out all I could about the probate process. I studied the process in my local county courts. I took classes on the process. I learned about the pitfalls and threats that executors and heirs face when settling their family's estates. And then I built my team and vendor list to have all that would be required to help families through this process. This included estate sales companies, precious metal buyers, construction contractors, attorneys, property appraisers, CPAs, wealth managers, investors, moving companies, you name it. But then I hit a snag. I ran into my first client whose father passed away, and he was managing his mother's affairs. I had prepared my team and my process to help them through the process, but they had a Seattle teardown, which is basically a house in such poor shape that the best thing to do is actually demolish it and start over. But that property was something that only a builder would really want to buy. So my builder connections at the time were pretty much the only thing in my tool belt I didn't have at the time. So what's worse is they wanted to take the funds of the sale of the teardown to purchase a house for sale next door to their owner's son's house on Camano Island. On top of that, there were already interested purchasers on the property next to his house on Camano Island. Here was my first client who gave me the opportunity to make my dad and my grandfather proud by serving someone's needs, but this was a situation I wasn't prepared for, quite honestly. So this is what happened. I mustered up my college resourcefulness and that skill set and decided to reach out to a lender contact of mine that had builder connections. And he connected me with a builder who was interested in the house. And we went under contract. I then was able to help my clients utilize retirement savings to make an offer on the neighboring house that was for sale next door to them, beating out a cash offer in the process before we had to close on the Seattle teardown. I utilized my CPA connection to ensure they didn't have to pay capital gains on the Seattle rental teardown property they had purchased years ago. So basically, mission accomplished. Throughout the whole process, I learned that helping families with their investments, assets planning, and estate settlement was the right type of business to start in order to build a lasting family legacy across not only my only family line, but other family lines as well that are going through this estate planning process. I realized to truly leave an impact for my family legacy, I needed to focus on how I could help others achieve their own family legacy goals, so future generations across all of America could continue to grow their family's wealth and protect their assets. This has become my mission here at Proestate Planning, and I believe I found the business that my dad and grandfather are proud of. So, if you find yourself in probate, be sure to pick up the Probate Mastery Bundle that I created for people just like you. I know it will help you navigate the process in order to be sure you're making the right decisions for settling the estate and helping you avoid the mistakes that people like my dad made in their pursuit to settle the family's estate. So scroll below to see all that's included in the Probate Mastery Bundle. I'm sure you'll have questions, but there's plenty to learn from. And if you act today, you'll get some pretty amazing bonuses, but you have to act today. That's because I don't want you to make the mistake of waiting, because that's one of the mistakes that can be made in terms of probate settlement process. So please make sure that you act below and get your probate mastery bundle so you can feel at ease and get the estate settled fast and effectively. This is Josiah Will signing off, and I wish you the very best. Thank you.